Good afternoon, friends. Today I'm back again with a new guest, a very special guest with me, Mr. Santosh Paul. He is a senior advocate at designated senior advocate at Supreme Court of India, and also author. And I'm very privileged that he is also senior at my chamber, that is Chamber of Mr. C.V. Francis. So welcome, Mr. Paul. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Kapil. Thanks for inviting me for this function.
So I would like you to tell to my audience, like, how did you, what is about your education background and how did you come into practice? What motivated you to come to legal practice?
Yes, see, I was educated in different parts of the country. I spent some time studying in Calcutta in my very, very junior years. Then further schooling was done in Coimbatore, and thereafter higher schooling in Mumbai. After schooling, I went to do a honors in economics, and that interest in economics still survives with me. And after I finished my graduation and majoring in economics, I was, debating as to what I should do, what I shouldn't do. Or it was during my graduation years where my father, Mr. M.J. Paul, who was an advocate on record of the Supreme Court, he evinced an interest in me in law because he was the secretary law of the LIC of India. And he had all these various cases which his organization was dealing with. And at one point of time, that famous decision of LIC versus Escorts, he was there at that point of time too. And he used to go on discussing these matters with me. But I had not made up my mind to become a lawyer. I had finished my graduation in economics. And, I was just a little clueless as to what I should be doing thereafter. It was at that point of time, my father and there was a uncle of mine who suggested, why don't you go and do law? And I entered law, not that at that point of time I was determined to become a lawyer. I entered the field of law, studied it, got interested over the years. I was doing the course. There was a very active moot court uh, thing which was going on in the college at that point of time, and slowly got interested in actually coming out and becoming a lawyer subsequently. So it is a gradual evincing of interest in law, kindled by my father. And as I began to get interested in law, I began to realize that perhaps, my avid reading will be supported in this profession, unlike any other profession, because I was an avid reader and I felt maybe this is what perhaps is best suited to me. That is how I ultimately finished my graduation in the Government Law College after having done my major in Elphinstone College, Mumbai, and became a lawyer.
So, like, I see that your father was a lawyer and you also became a lawyer. Uh, that would be a genuine interest as well. So, but how like mentors play a role in this field? Like, we still need mentors, even if we have like people in our families as lawyers. But still, we need mentors.
Yes, see, after I joined the profession, I was advised by one retired High Court judge that I should go to a lawyer who has a wide range of practice and preferably in the trial courts. I joined a senior where it was not a very satisfactory experience. And I had a good friend of mine who persuaded Mr. C.V. Francis. a very successful original side lawyer of the Delhi High Court, to take me in. And I went and joined his chamber. As you rightly put it, the mentor plays a key role in helping you through the profession. And CV Francis was a great mentor for me. And I remember him giving a case and said, go ahead and argue it in the district court. And I was a little fearful of that prospect of going there and not getting the results which my senior desired, perhaps. So when he saw my face, he said, remember one thing, go and argue it boldly. And even if you lose, let me tell you one thing, my clients will not run away from me just because you could not get a stay order, which was a very, very encouraging thought, which he conveyed to me, because he put me to rest, that you go and do your best. You don't be bothered about what the clients are going to, how they're going to react. And let me be rest assured that there is not going to be the client walking out just because you did not get the relief. And I went and to the district court. I remember there was a Sardarji judge, I forget his name. He must have been quite amused to see a junior lawyer. And normally, you know how it is in the district court, they never give an ex parte order. But this judge was so kind to me that he gave me an ex parte order of stay. And I came back exhilarated, carried out all the requirements of the Order 39 compliance. And I guess Mr. Francis, kind of realized that I will carry out the works to the best of my ability. And I spent a good 5.5 years, if I'm not mistaken, with CV Francis, who was a great mentor, as I said. And that period of my practice is still one of the most wonderful periods of my profession. You're absolutely right. A mentor plays a very, very key role in fostering not just the interest, enthusiasm, but also the love of law. So that's how it came about. And I guess a lot of it has to do with the encouragement with my father gave at the very initial stages. He developed that interest in law for me. And then I had a mentor in whose chamber I could actually bring it to fruition. That's how it is.
So you have seen like a lot of development happening in Delhi, because I understand and I know also that you have been in Delhi for very long time, practicing from district court till Supreme Court. So how things have changed in, let's say, last 25 years? Like there was only two or three district courts, and now there are seven district courts. So how the practice has changed in Delhi High Court, in Delhi?
See, when district court, that district court was the thesis Court. And it was a period of time, the Delhi High Court, I don't remember the exact number of judges, but it was a period of time, the inside car parking could be availed of by the lawyers as well as the litigants. And both would park the cars inside the Delhi High Court premises. So you can imagine what would have been the volume of work at that point of time. And everybody used to get a space to park the car inside. District court was one, that was the thesis courts. And as far as by the time I left and Mr. Francis and became independent, it still continued to be one district court. Thereafter, several districts came. And to be very honest, by the time I had stopped going to the district court, so I really have not seen the other district courts except from the outside, except perhaps the Patiala House courts. And in that sense, I find the lawyers are now juggling with several district courts. They're appearing in different districts of this city. And it has been a tedious thing for lawyers, I guess, because I was of the view when there was a lot of conflict as to bifurcation of the Tisazari courts. I was of the view, why don't you create one district court premises, say perhaps in the Pragati Maidan, so that the lawyers need not go hurtling from one court building to another building, some other faraway place. I mean, I had no voice in it, but this was something I conveyed to some of the leaders of the bar at that point of time. Of course, everybody had their own reasons, and then these districts came about. But I find that when I refer matters to other lawyers, they are actually juggling in several districts, which is something which I didn't have to do, and I didn't have to travel these long distances.
So now, in last 8 months, again the system has totally changed. Like when it was were two district courts and coming to seven lawyers traveling everywhere, and now it's changed again from your home. You can actually do the virtual hearing. So what do you see? What is the change now in the last 8 months?
See, what the change which I find is that there are two aspects to it. I see a positive side and I see a negative side. The positive side is that, you sit here and in you're appearing in probably Delhi, you're appearing in Bombay after half an hour or so, and then probably you'll be appearing in Jabalpur. And you have not moved from your office space, and you're actually addressing these three courts probably 1,000 miles apart from each other. In that sense, it is fantastic. There is the negative side to it, because what I felt was that as soon as the pandemic broke out and we had the lockdown in March, we should have followed the manner in which some of the countries in the Far East have been dealing with this pandemic. For instance, if you see the Singapore courts and other courts in the Far East and China especially, you will find that the online hearing commenced with great gusto and force and speed. Systems were put in place, and nothing stopped. But here, everything was brought to a standstill, and we are still struggling to see how best to accommodate matters and get matters listed, etc., etc. In my opinion, that I mean, we should be more proactive, and more of the systems should be in tune with the needs of the time, because we will have to face this pandemic situation for some time to come. Even vaccine or no vaccine, even vaccine means it has to be distributed to 7 billion people. So even if you look at it logistically, it involves a huge effort. Even if you look at the history of smallpox eradication, it has taken a good half a century to eradicate smallpox. So I'm not one of those optimists on the vaccine front. I'm very cautious of the fact that we are in a pandemic situation, and it will take quite some time to get things to normal. And it may probably be a year or maybe 2 years. And therefore, we cannot lose time. What we need is the courts and those who man it, from the highest of the judicial officers, to understand that this pandemic is here to stay, and we need to upgrade the systems so that we have our usual 15 benches of the Supreme Court functioning. We have every bench of the High Court functioning, which I think is what is happening in the Delhi High Court. And as I see it, the platform, the online platform on which we are working, is not a bad idea. Because what, as an arguing counsel, I find that we have to get far more focused, because the judges do not have an endless resource of time. So you will have to get your list of dates organized. You will have to get your case law organized. You have to get several things put in place, advance copies given, and the matter kickstarts within a very focused manner. So this is perhaps one way of resolving our age-old problem of pending matters which are escalating on the court files. That is one aspect. But for in order to do it, we need to develop the systems like it has been done in the Far East, like it has been done in China. And I see probably it's as much a blessing, though there are severe hurdles when you address a court on an online hearing. But it is a blessing in disguise because most of the matters you can actually get resolved on an online hearing.
Okay, and like I see that there are several different applications being used by different courts. Like Delhi High Court uses WebEx, and Gujarat High Court uses Zoom. There are not standard procedures still, even after 8 months of struggling. So, how are you dealing with that situation?
So, what you say is right. Now there are, uh, with different systems being used by different courts. And I find the Delhi High Court using the WebEx is a fairly successful system and more convenient system uh, than many of the other systems in place. For instance, some of the tribunals I appear, they have a limited number of people who can be inside uh, that conference. So what perhaps is required is systems being developed. Hmm. Somebody told me that Microsoft has what is called a personalized judge wise system. So, this bench, they will have a personalized system for X judge and Y judge and Z judge. So, that is, I'm told, because I've not used it, I'm told it's extremely successful and it works in a very fantastic manner. So, you see, we are in the learning process. Probably we will have to see how these things are done in advanced countries. I mean, advanced countries not in terms of economy, but advanced in the sense of technology, which I find the Far Eastern economies in China, etc., are technologically superior than probably the West when it comes to these kind of applications. For instance, if you see artificial intelligence judges, artificial intelligence judges are in place in China, which have disposed of more than 3 million matters. Of course, that is only a specific, that it relates to digital transactions. And you can use the blockchain evidence. So we may have to learn from these countries how these people are operating these systems, how they are able to carry it on, and we improve our systems accordingly. Right now, with different systems being used by different courts and having different criteria, having different capacities, is a kind of an, I wouldn't call it a challenge, but it is a kind of an irritation while dealing with the matters on different platforms. For instance, you will find in some of the high courts, you are not even able to access the court. You don't even know what item is going on. So, and there is a limited number of people who can, be inside. And sometimes you're going on chat, sending chat messages, please allow me in, please allow me in. See, these are things which needs to be ironed out. And as I said, we will have to look at the technologically advanced countries applying these systems to law courts and use it here.
Like recently, also I've seen that Gujarat High Court, Court Number One, Chiefs Bench, they have started the live streaming of their proceedings on Zoom, and that they are also live streaming on YouTube, so general public can see. So, don't you think it's the right time now when physical courts are closed and public has no access to the the gallery? So it's right time we can start putting that on some broadcasting platform like YouTube.
Yes, see, if you look at the traditional court, anybody can walk in and see the proceedings in that court. It's not a private hearing. In fact, the whole this our jurisprudence, the Anglo-Saxon jurisprudence to which we are adhering to, requires that these are all open court hearings. So by live streaming, I do not see anything which is incongruous with the traditional idea of the courts. The courts are open, anybody can witness what is going on inside. Of course, in the physical era, it was you had to enter the courtrooms. But in today's situation, you can, I mean, there is no harm that people can sit in Jammu and Kashmir or Kanyakumari and they can actually watch proceedings which are going on of something of their interest. I find there is nothing which is what do you call in any manner contradicting our view of traditional courts in this regard.
Yeah, and it will be a lot of opportunities also for students who are in colleges, and they can now see proceedings of courts. Usually, like, they don't get time to go to courts, or they don't have access. Like Supreme Court is like totally closed. Students have very difficult. Even High Court in Delhi, it's very difficult to for students to go there and attend courts. So if it's online streamed, I'm not saying that give them access to chat or but just broadcasting would really help. Okay, and now coming back to this, like
Yes,
how?
see,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'll just interrupt you for a minute. See, I have read in one of the books by a very eminent US Supreme Court judge. That was, I think, William Douglas in his book, The Court Years. He talks about having recorded the entire proceedings, audio recorded, of the US Supreme Court. And he went to find out who are the people who are taking these audio tapes. And he found most of them are law students who are sitting, who borrow these audio tapes and thereafter they are listening to the arguments. So this is a great idea that people are able to lawyers are able to witness, or law students are able to see what is going on, how matters are conducted. And it is, I think, expansion of the entire education, legal education in itself. See, for instance, when we practiced in our junior years, there was no live law. There was none of these, there was no bar and bench. Today, you are alerted in some part of this country, some court has actually passed a judgment which is quite a landmark decision. You're immediately alerted, and not just alerted, you're also able to read the entire judgment on your computer screen or on your phone. Now, this was something which never existed in my junior years. Now, this is all a development in the last, I guess, last 10 years. And now today it is far more advanced and far more fast and far more efficient. So today I find lawyers, I mean, you're looking for a judgment and immediately, I was doing some research, and believe it or not, in the last 1 2 weeks, it was a matter which was argued in the Bombay High Court, and we failed there. And lo behold, and we find on the online platforms, two decisions have been given by the Supreme Court that where they say the wishes of the child has to be ascertained by an interview. Now, it's one was by Justice Indu Malhotra, one was by Justice Chandrachud. Now, all this happens almost as soon as the judgment is delivered. Not that it is delivered and it is a news item. The entire text of the judgment is made available. Now, this is an advantage which the present generation of law students and younger lawyers are having, which we never had. If we had to get, oh, there is some decision of the Madhya Pradesh High Court, where do we find it? Who's got the law reports? Go find some lawyer who keeps, let's say, an Orissa High Court. So you'll go to an Orissa lawyer who's practicing in the Supreme Court. Do you have these reports? And it was always a Herculean task. But today it is all on a click of a button. All the decisions you want, you get it. So it is a very, very, I find, an advanced and a very helpful systems are in place today, and to the benefit of the younger lawyers, to the benefit of the students.
Okay, now coming to your personal practice, like how COVID-19 lockdown affected your practice.
As I told you, the COVID 19 lockdown has curtailed court hearings to very urgent matters. In that sense, many of the routine matters which are coming up, final hearings which are coming up, all these are not existent any longer. So you have a very narrow uh, range of matters where relief sought are very urgent, and therefore you're moving it, and therefore it is being entertained by the courts. Now, this means, as I see it, there is almost just 25% of the work which I used to do earlier. So, this is okay for a senior lawyer, but for a junior section, it means there are lesser matters to deal with. So there is an entire generation of lawyers who are unable to make ends meet in the current pandemic situation, which is not a healthy situation for law at all and law practice in particular. Because these are lawyers, if for instance in a city like Delhi, you find many people who come from different states trying to establish practice in Delhi, and they are not homeowners. They are invariably they are on rent, and their incomes have been curtailed. And I know of several cases where people have left and gone back to their states. Now, this is not a happy situation. See, any city, any country which develops is, there is a huge influx of its own population from different parts of the world into its cities. They bring in the clash of ideas. They ensure that the whole economy is moving. They are participants in a very vibrant legal climate. But today, the unfortunate part is because of the reduction of the matters in being heard by the courts, it involves a reduction of the incomes and practice of the junior lawyers, which is not at all a healthy situation. Which is why I have been telling we have to understand how the technologically advanced countries uh, of the Far East and other countries, how they are dealing with the pandemic situation, how they are able to ensure that the legal systems continue at the same pace as it was before by using the system of online hearings, and so that there is no curtailing of the work being carried out. It is very, very important because, in my opinion, see, the curtailing of matters being heard by the court involves curtailing of the rule of law. We are governed by the rule of law because if there is an infraction of somebody's right, then he's entitled to move the court. The court may think it is urgent, may not think it is urgent, but the point is he has a right to move the court and to have it listed and to have it heard and to have it adjudicated by that court. So if that is not possible and you are going to only hear a narrow range of matters which involve stay of bail, etc., then I think there is an infraction of the rule of law, and it is an infraction of the rights of citizens to access the courts, which is guaranteed under the Constitution.
And like, how did you spend? Because there's with lockdown and courts not functioning, and in initial days it was a total lockdown. No courts were functioning at all. So that, how did you spend your lockdown period?
That's a very interesting question because the minute the lockdown took place, what I did was I brought in all the books which I wanted to read and never had the time for it, and began reading all those writers and thinkers which I somehow I could not get the time to read it, and slowly as the courts began to function, that reading has come down, but it gave me the opportunity to read many of the works which you see right above my collection of that Constitution series are all books which have nothing to do with law at all. And that is something I found the time for it.
And in the closing remark, any message for young practitioners? As you say, like, they are facing a lot of challenges these days. Not only young, but like people have lost their practice. So, any message for them?
See, this is something. Uh, as far as a junior lawyer is concerned, I really don't know how to advise them in a situation of this nature. See, not everybody is a homeowner in this city or any city for that matter. They in India, people become a lawyer in the early 20s or the mid 20s. And when you become a lawyer, by that time, there are a lot of liabilities in the family. For instance, your parents have retired, or there's a marriage in the offing. And this is a time when junior lawyers need the money and they need to practice. And as I said, my advice is not to the junior lawyers. Junior lawyers will have to, find ways to sustain in this profession, and they can only sustain if the judicial systems acknowledge that we are in a pandemic situation. This pandemic situation will continue for some time, and we have to upgrade the systems, and we have to ensure that all the courts are functioning, and to the best of our abilities, we are able to do it. Hmm? Unless so My advice is to the people who hold the reins of power to ensure that everything gets back into order in this new pandemic situation under the available means of technology which are used in other countries of probably far more technologically advanced. But we should be able to ape those and see that the whole systems are put in place and made to function at the speeds at which it was carrying on. Because otherwise, what do I tell a junior lawyer? Listen, you're going to not going to earn any income. There will be no practice. That is not an answer. And I say, go and start reading books. As I said, that advice is always there, and I'm quite sure the younger lawyers are aware of that situation, and they must be reading and they must be getting themselves updated with what is happening. But what is more important is that those who wield the reins of power needs to actually get down to get things back to as normal as can be with the aid of available means of technology.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Paul, for accepting my invitation for this interview, your encouraging words, and your insight into the profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kapil. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank
All the
you.
very best.
Thank you, sir. So, audience, this was Mr. Santosh Paul, who is a designated senior lawyer at Supreme Court of India. I'll come back with another uh, personality or celebrity or friend of mine for an interview. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.